תודה רבה לך, חברת הכנסת לימור סון הר מלך. הדובר הבא, מר דוד בדין, מנהל המרכז לחקר מדיניות המזרח התיכון. בבקשה.
תודה רבה. I'll speak in English so it can be clear. I grew up in the United States, in Philadelphia, where I first met Frank Hunt, who was appointed by the American Friends Service Committee to handle UNRWA. And it was a humanitarian organization at the time. It was not a Zionist organization, but they did what they could to stop violence. And when I came to Israel in 1970, ever since I've been involved, and 7 years ago, in 1987 started an agency to investigate UNRWA. Until recently, I was talking about the reform of UNRWA. I cannot do that anymore after this war. The time has come for the government of Israel to declare the UNRWA not only in Gaza, but we've been filming. Our agency films the schools, films the UNRWA schools in Judea, Samaria, Jerusalem, and in Gaza. We have 4 Arab workers and 4 Jewish workers. We are prevented from making our case in Israel. We cannot get on television. We can't get into one university. And the one university that we did make a presentation, the whole thing is as if it didn't happen. We need the foreign press and the foreign diplomats to ask questions. You know, in the Bible, we have someone called Jethro, and he made sure that Moses would act correctly, and you are our Jethros. Okay, when you hear what I'm talking about, you can ask difficult questions, not on the nice people here, but the people who are welcoming Blinken this week to Israel and suggesting to him that Gaza be handed over to UNRWA. UNRWA is not only an anti-Semitic organization of hatred. No, it's much worse than that. Well, I have a book here, Roadblock to Peace. I'm going to, every one of you, I have more copies upstairs. This is how the UNRWA perpetuates the Middle East conflict. Now, how do they get away with it? Well, the budget of $3.6 billion is used where? Mostly in the Israel economy, and people, are bought off. There's no other way to say it. We suggest examination of every organization that invests in UNRWA and gives to UNRWA. The redefinition of UNRWA as a hostile terrorist organization, there needs to be a criminal responsible of the Commissioner General of UNRWA. I know I'm sitting next to a gentleman, a diplomat from Switzerland, Philip Lazzarini, who has conducted a criminal organization and with no accountability. We have to take Mr. Lazzarini very seriously, because if you look at the website, they have just responded to us when we showed our films. We have 24 films. We'd like to show them to all the embassies. And we're not allowed to do that in Israel. The TV knocks us out. We can't, but we have to go to the foreigners. The embassies play a very important role to get the truth out. We have to initiate a criminal investigation of UNRWA and their involvement in terrorist organizations. The commission, the research division of the Knesset needs to gather evidence to present to the UN Secretary General with the war crimes of UNRWA. If they're going to deal with the Hague with a fake accusation against Israel, let's have some real accusations against what UNRWA is doing. Every employee of UNRWA who is a member of a terrorist organization has to be taken into account and indicted and possibly arrested. There's a whole generation that doesn't know the legacy of UNRWA. How was UNRWA started? We interviewed the family of Folk Bernadotte, a Swedish diplomat who was later assassinated, who conceptualized the inalienable right of return to Palestine as a contrast to the Jewish concept of law of return. Now, what about UNHCR? We went to Geneva. We took our staff to New York. UNHCR cannot replace UNRWA because one UN agency cannot replace another. But what we can do, and the diplomats play a very, very important role, we can ask the UNRWA and demand that UNRWA replicate the principles of UNHCR and adapt that to the whole point. I'm a social work professional. That's how you have to work. You work inside the system. But if there's no transparency of $1.6 billion coming in, the first investigation we did in the 1980s was the disappearance of money for medical equipment, which continues to disappear. And there's no one calling it. Why? Because the medical equipment is being, I am a loyal Israeli, but being sold to medical services in Israel. It's profitable. There are many people in Israel making money from the fact that they can get cheap medical equipment from UNRWA.
David, just to explain that so they don't think that Israel takes the equipment, is Hamas receive the equipment and then sells it to someone else. It can be in Israel, it can be foreign or anywhere else.
Correct. UNRWA receives the equipment and sends it abroad. Hamas working with the Palestinian Authority, it's one great partnership. And this is very important. It's not being investigated. And the other things which aren't being investigated, which can be, we have our films. We sent photographers to film the graffiti around the schools in Bethlehem. 915 pictures of murder, and the UNRWA takes no responsibility. UNRWA says we have nothing to do with it. These are kids who come out of schools where they learn that kind of art. The new school curriculum. There was a hope. In 2000, when there would be a new school curriculum, it would be one for peace. And many countries were involved in, and as a matter of fact, forgive me for insulting someone who's passed away, Shimon Peres said that there was a peace curriculum. It didn't exist. But look at it. Look at it for what it is. It's not a Hamas curriculum. It's a PA curriculum approved by all the donor countries. Now, last but not least, the gentleman who spoke before me, who was in the army. All the foreign government. We went to all the donors have gone UNRWA. Do you know about weapons in the schools? Not one of them. They all denied it. Now it's real, and now people are being killed because of it. And I appeal to the people here who are diplomats. Look at the fact that the IDF hasn't gone into Bethlehem yet, or into the UNRWA camps in Jerusalem. Those are filled with weapons. I ask you to please, also members of Knesset. I'm sorry, I'm speaking in English. Ask for accountability. Why is the army not confiscating that? Why is there not an order from the foreign ministry to confiscate the weapons? What do I get from the foreign ministry? It doesn't exist. There's something wrong here. There's something wrong here that they're saying it doesn't exist, and this is a life-threatening situation to all of us. And that's very important. And last but not least, a constructive thing, there was something called the U.S. UNRWA Accord, which was signed 2 years ago under President Biden, which forbids, the American government forbidding the aid to UNRWA unless they would change their school system. Well, we now know that the foreign ministry says, well, you don't have to keep it because we're working with UNRWA on other things. That is not acceptable. So all I can say is there's a lot to be done. And last but not least, look at this from the school book, new school book of the Palestinian Authority. This is a picture of a woman who murdered 36 Jews, and she's featured in this book. We went to New York, showed this to Guterres, the UN Secretary General. He gave an order to UNRWA to pull it out. Well, they put it back in 3 months ago, and we've located all the ambassadors. What about what's going on here? And the glorification of murder never existed in the school books of Nazi Germany. It does in UNRWA and in the PA. So all I can say is you have a role to play to raise these questions. My friends in the Knesset, I haven't given up on you, but I can tell you that it's when you're asked a question from abroad, it does affect. And I have a copy of my recommendations in English and Hebrew. Happy to share them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Bedein.